There's a syndrome attributed to short people that's characterized by overly aggressive or domineering social behavior. This syndrome got its name from a military commander and political leader who rose to prominence during the French Revolution and who was once measured at a diminutive 5 foot 2 inches. His name? Napoleon. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. All right, this is Ronald, and I am leaving the theater after seeing Napoleon. Napoleon, written by David Scarpa, directed by Ridley Scott, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Vanessa Kirby, Tahar, Rahim, Ben Miles, Ludivine, Sagnier, Matthew Needham, Paul Rhys, and Catherine Walker. To be honest, this movie only really stars two people, Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby. So Napoleon is a movie about Napoleon Bonaparte. I don't know. Governing and leading France to multiple victories, or as he was doing stuff between, in the late 1700s and the early 1800s. Talks about his life, his rise to prominence, and his fall from grace, and his eventual exile. It is directed by Ridley Scott, obviously, which I've already said. This is obviously going to be Oscar bait. It's done by Apple Films, and it definitely seems like they're shooting for awards and acclaim with this one. It just feels... This movie is it's like, let me just first of all preface all of this by saying I don't like anything set in the 17th or 18th century. And I think I have those numbers probably wrong. So I'll just repeat. I don't like anything set in the 1700s or 1800s. Anything where they're wearing wigs, anything where it's powdered or there's a musket or a cannon. I'm not interested. I'm really not. I don't want to see it. I don't care. There's not enough black people. That's why I didn't watch Bridgerton, which I know everyone was like, oh my God, it's so diverse. I'm like, that's not real. I don't believe it. You're never gonna, I'm not watching it. But I will say this feels like Bridgerton for men. Now, let me just start off by saying, let me continue by saying I have never seen Bridgerton, but this is what I would expect Bridgerton for men to be, meaning that there's romance and intrigue, but it's presented very much from a man's perspective. And there's some serious battles in there, and battles that require chess pieces and outwitting your enemy in a very specific way. Clearly, there's a lot of attention paid to the way that Napoleon kind of has a brilliant tactical mind, which I think that Ridley Scott thinks that Napoleon has a brilliant tactical mind. And I think there's plenty of people out there that'll say Napoleon had a brilliant tactical mind. I am not one of those people because I don't really care. But it was interesting to watch. It was interesting. And I think those are the parts of the movie that I liked the most. What I didn't like was just kind of watching this interpretation of Napoleon be pretty annoying and pedantic and kind of clingy and petty. And in a way that was good. To be clear, was a good acting performance, but it didn't really interest me in the story very much. There were times in the beginning where I was like, is this movie about to be really good? And to be honest, the movie was okay, but the acting was very good between Vanessa Kirby and Joaquin Phoenix. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed their performances. And this being a performance-driven movie, a movie that I do not think should be nominated for Best Picture, but should be nominated for acting performances, I think that's all it has to do. And this is the time of year when you really do have movies, again, y'all have heard me say this before, if you listen to anything I talk about around this time of year or early next year, you're always going to hear me say, this is performance-driven, or this is narrative-driven. This is performance-driven. The narrative, they don't really care about the narrative except for the highlights, which were fine. And again, the battles I really enjoyed. They were interesting, but then something would happen as a result of the battle and I'd be completely lost. I didn't understand whose side I was supposed to be on the French Revolution or whose side Napoleon was on for the French Revolution. I'm sure y'all are like, well, why don't you read a book or a history book? I got to be honest. I know some of y'all listening have heard about Napoleon your entire lives and probably couldn't tell me a thing about him. Yes, we've heard his name. Yes, we know he was a dictator, blah, blah, blah. But what else do you know about him for real, for real? And I know somebody who participated in French history or something is going to be like, well, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, sure, maybe you know that. But I'm just being honest. Like the average moviegoer going to watch this, you're not going to know much about Napoleon walking in. And I didn't. And I feel like walking out, I don't know much more about him. I'm interested in what happened during the French Revolution specifically because it seems like the plebes were like killing it for a minute and then all of a sudden they weren't, and the rich people all got out of jail and everything went back to status quo. That's what it seems like, and I'm very interested in that movie. But also, I guess maybe I'm just not that interested in the French Revolution as much as the American one. But also, I don't know if that's true either, because I was sitting there watching it and it drew me in. They had the guillotines and everything in the beginning, but it just seemed like they were sending a message in the beginning of the movie that ends up not really being what the movie's about. It really isn't about the revolution. It's really just about what Napoleon is doing, set against the backdrop of the revolution, which kind of goes away very quickly. So, it's a fine movie. I think I would give this, honestly, I would never watch this again. So I'd give it a 2.99. That is my rating for the movie. But if I could just rate performances and of acting, I would give both Vanessa Kirby and Joaquin Phoenix 4 of 5 stars. But I'm not going to average that score because I really, really don't think y'all got to watch this until it comes out on Apple TV. It's 2 hours and 38 minutes, which is like 2 hours and 38 minutes, probably too long. That's being mean. It could probably be an hour shorter, to be honest. Like, just get to the point. There was a lot of stuff in there. I'm just like, I don't know if I need to see this. I don't know if you even need to slow this down. Like, just get to the battles. Let's get to the murders. Sorry, not the murders, but the battles. I don't know why I said murders. Forgive me. So yeah, again, I would give it a 2.99 of 5 stars. So, see it if you want. It'll be on Apple TV. Of the 2 movies that they have coming out, Killers of the Flower Moon, which you've already heard the review for, and this one, I think Killers of the Flower Moon is the better movie of the 2. But kudos to Ridley Scott, who is 85 and coming out with Gladiator 2 next year. Chris Klimek just told me. So, we'll see what happens next year with Gladiator 2. Still making movies, these folks, and still getting money to make movies, which is an entirely different commentary, which I won't get into right now as a podcaster who's trying to make stuff, as a 39-year-old podcaster trying to make stuff on a shoestring budget. Join the Patreon. No, seriously, join the Patreon. All right, and with that, Leaving the Theater is a production of Oh, It's Big Ron Studios. Alexandra Ketch of Bias Studios mixes the show. Thank you, Alex. Show art from Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. For more information about Napoleon, check out our show notes. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or Threads at Oh, It's Big Ron. That's at OHITSBIGRON. You can find out more about this show and other Oh, It's Big Ron Studios shows by following us on Instagram at Oh, It's Big Ron Studios and on Twitter at Oh, It's Big Ron Stew. That's STEW. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening.